everybody and welcome back to the United Stand. So Marcus Rashford speaks out in a piece called Who I Really Am by Marcus Rashford. Obviously, Marcus Rashford has had a lot of criticism this year and especially over the last couple of months, and he said usually he can take this criticism, but when it comes to questioning his love and commitment to the club, that is when he has to speak out. We are going to be going through it and kind of get your opinions on it. I'm going to give my opinions on it and we're going to just get into it together and go through it. A lot of people are really happy that he's come out and spoke and they feel more connected to him now he spoke. A lot of people think this is PR. PR gets labelled with Rashford a lot of the time. What do you think? Get your opinions in the comments down below. I have read the whole piece. It was a long read and my first initial reactions, obviously I've only just read it, so I'm going off the bat here. I've not had time to completely dissect it all, but I've read the whole piece and I'm not going to lie, when I was reading through it, I was a bit of emotional and it did pull on my heartstrings. And a lot of you will say, Beth, you've fallen into the trap of the PR. I understand that. I understand how it can be perceived. But there's also a video that goes along with it, and the video is Rashford actually speaking these things. So it's not as if someone has written it for him. He was speaking it in the video. And it does feel like it comes from the heart. The way it's written is the way he would say it. It does feel like that. The only thing I was thinking as I was reading through paragraph and through paragraph and through paragraph, and you know, it speaks about him growing up and the difficult circumstances he went through, how Manchester is in his blood, how he had other opportunities but he just loved playing for Manchester United, how he thinks the team can do better and how he understands how social media, podcasts, etc. are going to criticise, but he doesn't want his love for the club to come into question. Every single passage I went through, I was thinking in the back of my head, oh, well, please just show it on the pitch then, because I've said multiple times on this show how much all United fans, well, not all of them, but like most United fans, any United fan who loves the club has been in love with Marcus Rashford at one point or another as a Manchester United player. Everybody's always wanted him to do well. Everybody's always wanted him to deliver. And I think that's why it's been extra disappointing these last few months when there is negative body language, when you're not putting in the yards on the pitch that we'd expect to see from somebody who cares for the club this deeply. So I'm looking at the words and I'm thinking, this is actually really emotional and it's heartfelt, and I'm glad he's spoken out, because everyone has a right to a voice and to speak out on how they feel. And you know, if people can speak about Rashford, he can speak out on that. I absolutely agree that he should have a voice and he should talk to the fans, and I'm glad he's done it. But I was thinking, when it just shows different to what I'm seeing when I sit in Old Trafford. When I sat in Old Trafford in that Fulham game, I saw somebody who looked like they didn't want to be there, who's someone who wasn't putting in the effort as what I'd expect from a United player. When I read that, who Marcus Rashford really is, I see someone hard-working, someone humble, someone who I've always thought that Marcus Rashford is. So it's kind of, it's contrasting, it is different. That whole message is different to what I've seen on the pitch, and that's what I was initially sort of thinking. So that fire that I feel like Rashford has lost and that everybody kind of loved in him when he first came through, it feels like that fire is dimmed out over the last few months, and the fire needs to be relit. And I'm not just talking about his form. Everyone can go for a bad spell of form. I think where people have really been disappointed, which is why Marcus Rashford feels like he's had to speak out, is the body language and the lack of effort that a lot of people have noticed. That's what people have seen, and Rashford is outright disputing this, and he's using his voice to say it's completely not the case, and he is 100% committed to this club, and tells a lot of stories in there that kind of really do make you understand what it's been like for Marcus Rashford growing up, and obviously his development at the club as a whole. But everyone, get in the comments your opinions. I want to hear what you guys have to say. Interestingly enough, I put this tweet out when it first dropped and when I first read through the whole thing. And my tweet was, and this is was my first initial reaction, the Rashford post is a great read and is very heartfelt. Both things I think are true. It's why United fans fell in love with him. He's one of our own, which is why there's enhanced disappointment when you feel like the fire he had has gone out over recent months. We just need to see that fire on the pitch. And what I mean by that is Rashford has every right to speak out about people talking about him as a person and his commitment. And he also says that people have brought his family into it. I mean, nobody on this platform would ever do that, but if other people have, then that's out of order as well. And he has every right to speak on that, but nobody is going to have any way to question Marcus Rashford's commitment if he is committing himself absolutely thoroughly on the pitch. No one's going to question that. If I see Rashford putting in the yards every single weekend when I go to Old Trafford and watch, even if he's not scoring, I'm not going to question his commitment. I mean, I absolutely love Bruno Fernandes. He's had a really poor season, but I know Bruno Fernandes will fight for that badge. I know that no matter what, which is why I always defend him. If I see that attitude and that commitment from Rashford on the pitch, I'm never going to question it. We're only going off based on what we're seeing. So maybe him kind of telling us this in this whole who I really am is him trying to get his message across to the fans. But realistically, the fans should be able to see on a Saturday or a Sunday or a midweek game turning up to Old Trafford, they should be able to see your commitment on the pitch. That's where things are getting lost in translation. But what I think is a really kind of poignant quote from Rashford in this whole story that he put out, and if you've not read it, I highly suggest you go and read on it before you speak on it. He said, "I can take any criticism, I can take any headline, from podcast to social media, on the papers, I can take it. But if you start questioning my commitment to this club and my love for football and bringing my family into it, then I'd simply ask for you to have a little bit more humanity." So Rashford there asking for humanity. As I said, no one should ever bring anybody's family into it. That is completely out of order. And, you know, football, we can all have our opinions on football, but bringing someone's family into it is obviously out of order. But obviously, social media is part of football. People are going to comment on it. But I understand why he would be so frustrated with people questioning his love for the club, because obviously he's grown up United through and through and he's made a lot of sacrifices to be where he is. He's obviously gone through rough times in his childhood. I can understand it. But the fact of the matter is, when people see you not making a sprint you should be making, when people see you not closing down your player, when people see you throwing your arms up in the air and kind of walking back, people are going to question the work rate. That's always going to happen. So what we just need to see from Rashford, and what we all want to see, we all want to see it because we want the best for this club. And Rashford is one of our own. We just need to see it on the pitch. That's where it wasn't lining up for me. When I was reading through this whole article, I was thinking his childhood, like the sacrifices his family made for him, the sacrifices he made. You know, he speaks about how he had an option to play for another club that was offering him a house and life-changing money, and Man United haven't offered that yet. And he could have felt pressure to take that because of obviously the circumstances that his family was in, but his family were really supportive of him, and he ended up playing a game for them, and the line is, "What do you want to do?" And he said, "I want to go back to United." That really touches you. Like, it does. All of that is exactly why we fell in love with Marcus Rashford when he first came onto the scene. You know, from Withenshaw was Born to Fight, the whole song, like everybody, that's why they loved him. But the problem is we've not seen that hunger for, like, that hunger to play for Man United on the football pitch. He speaks about how as a kid he, you know, would go into these tournaments to try and win the money to buy a ticket to Old Trafford, and he'd go with his family and he'd stay the whole game, and he'd stay afterwards until the lights were going out because he just loved it so much. And it's completely heartwarming because people can relate. There's so many people out there that would have dreamed to play for Man United as a kid and have gone through difficult circumstances similar to Marcus Rashford and have had these experiences, the ones that he tells. It is heartfelt. But then when you've been through that and then you're on the pitch and, like, just clap the fans at the end. You know, go around the pitch and clap the fans. And these little things, these show the fans now. These show that you are committed. And these are really, really little things. But what do you also think about the timing of this? And what do you think about what this means for Rashford going forward? Because I think it's actually quite brave to drop this before a Manchester derby, to be honest with you, because he's got to work hard in that game and he is going to play. He's spoken about how the Manchester derby and Anfield are his favourite games to play. I feel like dropping something like this, you are really setting yourself up for, I've got to go out there and show him now. I've really got to go out there and show him. And if I see that Marcus Rashford, I'll be very happy. He speaks about how he plays his best football when his back's against the wall. I hope we do see that. But people getting your comments in the chat, a lot of people talking about how they feel like this is PR. One thing I would say is, if it was PR, it's very, very clever PR if it is PR. I don't think somebody can sit in front of a camera, speak about their childhood, speak about their family, speak about their difficult upbringing, and speak so candidly about Manchester United the way he did, and it all be a script. Like, I just cannot see that. I cannot see that being the case with anybody. I just think it's too much. Do I think, obviously, you know, he's disappointed with how his image is online at the moment with a lot of Man United fans? Yeah, absolutely. Does he want to change that image? 100%. Like, but he has the right to a voice, and I encourage people to speak out because we can see more of their side of the story. And he speaks about making mistakes as a normal 20-year-old lad, and he said he would own up to that. Obviously, Belfast falls into that category. We've all said many footballers made mistakes. You know, as a fan base, we've been forgiven in the past. The best of us make mistakes. That's not an issue. But the issue is the reoccurring theme of just going to Old Trafford and just feeling like you're not getting 100% out of Rashford. That's what needs to change. Goldbridge actually put out a tweet, and I'm sure Mark will react to this on his next show, by the way, so you get Mark's opinion. It's different to mine, and people often, I always hear a lot of people say, you know, you and Mark, like, you just copy what Mark says, and that's just completely not true. Like, me and Mark do have very similar opinions on stuff, but we also have very different opinions on stuff. If I wanted to copy Mark on what he said, I would have, you know, said, I would never have spoken up how I wanted a new keeper. But what Mark did say is, perform on the pitch and your critics disappear. Simple. And I agree with that to a certain extent. I always think, you know, we're allowed to speak on footballers. Footballers should be able to speak back. I do always think that. And, you know, when Rashford did reply to the United stand post, like, okay, yeah, like, I do think that post was misconstrued because the video wasn't watched. And if the video was watched, then I don't think there would have been a reply because nobody was questioning Rashford going to a different club and his future at the club. We were just questioning whether Garnacho should start over him, basically. But if we can speak, then the person who we're speaking about should be allowed to say back. I do agree with that, but it is true, and it's what I've just spoke about there. And I'm generally not talking about scoring 30 goals a season like he did last season. I'm talking about sprinting. I'm talking about closing players down. I'm talking about being strong into a shoulder barge, into a tackle. I'm talking about jumping for a header and not ducking out of it. I'm talking about, at the end of a game, go and clap the fans at Old Trafford. Don't just walk straight down the tunnel. That's what I'm talking about when I'm talking about, you know, you wouldn't... Man United fans have been so understanding, and Rashford says in this, I remember this quote, when we're winning, United fans are the best team, best fans in the world, there's no doubt about it, and that's absolutely true, but United fans have also been there through a lot. We have, you know, players can lose form, I'm not speaking for everybody because United fans, everyone has their own opinion, but you'll stick by them. Man United fans have stuck by Marcus Rashford through a lot. He's been very consistent in some seasons. He's been really inconsistent in other seasons. United fans have stuck by him, and there's still Man United fans sticking by him now. Reading that piece, what I would say from my emotion is reading that piece, I'd lost touch with who I thought Rashford was. I'm going to be honest. I've criticised Marcus Rashford a lot on the United stand. And what I have criticised is, again, I've criticised based off what I've seen at Old Trafford, when I'm sat there, when I'm watching the game. And I don't regret any of that because what I've said is exactly what I've seen. But who I really am by Marcus Rashford, what it did do for me is it made me, every time I've said on the show, but I've always loved Rashford. And I see some people get sick of it when Mark says it, but I've always loved Rashford, but this, but that. Because you find yourself saying, I've always loved Rashford, but his work ethic's not been good this season, but he's been really inconsistent, but he needs to run more. And what this made me realise is why I've always loved Rashford. The reasoning behind it, because you know his backstory. You know how much of a hardship he had to face in his childhood to get to where he is. And he's not the only footballer. A lot of footballers have faced this in their career, and that's why you get to where you are. Nobody becomes a top-level footballer at Manchester United by not working hard. You've got to work hard. But I'd personally felt like Rashford had lost his way over this last season. You know, there's headlines about him going out. There's, you know, headlines. There's so many headlines. There's then what you see on the pitch, and then when you read that, you realise that's the Rashford that I know. But the problem is, what you're seeing isn't lining up with that article, and that's all what needs to happen. A lot of people in the chat. See, there's such a mixed opinion on the chat. Some people saying they'd sell him. Some people are saying that they kind of have felt a little bit more sympathy for Marcus Rashford through reading through this article. But the fact of the matter is, he is, the highest paid player at the club. You do expect better, like you do. But what Rashford does say, and I'll get through some of your super chats in a second, is he says it's never about money that motivates you to play as a footballer. It's about the love for the game. And he said, after that, he goes on to say that everybody knows that Man United has been through a turbulent period and transitional years in these last few seasons. And he feels, and he didn't explicitly say he's not enjoying his football, but I did think, saying it's not money that makes you motivated, it's the love for the game. And then it goes on to say, well, we all know we've been through a bad spell, like a transitional spell over these last few years. Does that mean you have fallen out of love with the game a little bit? I'm not sure. I was just trying to read into that because he didn't explicitly say. Mank in Chicago said, I'm so fed up with these sob stories, show it on the pitch. Keel Robinson said, he's not a lad, he's 27, not performing. Sell. Lemonface 31, 350k, Beth, most people on 2k a month, poor guy. Darren Mulaney says, I will stop questioning him when he starts scoring goals and playing a lot better. Alex Marman says, actions speak louder than words. Do your talking on the pitch rather than off it and prove that you are committed to the club and rather than look disinterested. Jaden AK says, the only way back to back this up is to put in a brave performance in the derby and show some fight for the club. Exactly, Jaden. That's what I mean. I will stick by my comments saying, recently, what I've seen on the pitch does not match up to what is in that statement from Rashford. It doesn't match up. But please prove me wrong at the derby. Please do it. I would love you to do that. And what I actually felt was really interesting by Marcus Rashford, I'm not going to go through every single quote because it's very long, but please do read it, is we've really wanted Rashford to show some leadership for a long time. Everyone says he's 27, he's the highest paid player, he knows what it is, he's Manc born and bred, he should be the example. And we've not seen that over recent months. But what I do like in this statement from him, the Players Tribune, and he also speaks, the way it's written, like a little bit, in some parts, it's like, I shouldn't even be saying this, but I shouldn't be saying this, that. It is candid, and you do feel like you are hearing directly from Rashford. He says, which I think is really important, he says, I promise you, the world has not seen the best of this United squad and these players. We want to be back playing in the Champions League, then we have a massive international tournament at the end of the season. We will be back where we belong. We just have to keep working, and it starts with me. If you back me, good. If you doubt me, even better. And there's a video linked below. And in that video, he says his dream is still to win the Premier League with Man United, and he doesn't want to waste any time doing that. And obviously, he's not getting any younger, and he is 27. And realistically, can you see Man United winning the Premier League within the next 5 years? Because that's probably the time frame Rashford's got, really. 5 or 6 years. Can you see that? I can't. So time is ticking for Rashford. And if you back me, good. If you doubt me, even better. That's exactly what you want. And that paragraph there is the first bit of leadership I've kind of seen from Rashford in a very, very, very long time. It starts with me. He's actually holding himself accountable there. He also speaks a little bit in the article about how he feels like in recent times, when he's mentally or physically he's been down, it's when he turns it around and plays his best football for United and England. The one thing I would say about that is we need Rashford to be playing well all the time. And I'm not saying, because I don't think Rashford's on the level of like a Salah, who is just world class and never really has a dip. Even when he's having a dip, he's scoring. Rashford is a player that goes in and out of form. He's not consistent enough. But what you have to maintain the consistency on is work ethic. That's what you have to maintain. That's how you keep the fans on side. All fans can understand a bad spell of form. I can certainly understand it. I love Bruno Fernandes. He's had a poor season. But I back the player because I know what he can do, and I know what he provides on the football pitch is pure commitment. That's all Rashford needs to do. He needs to show commitment. Obviously, he needs to play well as well. He's a very highly paid player at Manchester United, and that's what you expect. But the fact of the matter is, that's the first time I've seen from Rashford a little shred of kind of leadership and the mentality where I think, oh, right, okay. So you do know what it takes. You do back this team and these players. You do back yourself, and you know that you need to do better. Great stuff, because we can work with that. Tristan Nadu says, all the people hating, why are you not playing for Man United? Let me have a little... The one thing I would say is you don't play for Man United from the circumstances that Rashford came from, by the way, where he speaks about having to get, several different modes of transport to training, his mum making a lot of sacrifices, which is obviously very admirable. He speaks about staying, he's obviously from Wythenshawe, that's where his son comes from, but he's had to stay in loads of different parts of Manchester, and he names them Moss Side, Hume, can't remember where the other one was. You don't get from there to be Man United's best paid player at 27 years old through not working hard. It doesn't just happen by accident. Like, it doesn't. Rashford, there's an argument whether he should be the best paid player at United. There's an argument on whether he's good enough to continue to play for Man United. There's an argument on whether, he can maintain the standards if he's got another level to go up, if he's consistent enough to play for Man United. But to get to that point, you have to be hardworking. You have to make sacrifices. I don't doubt any of that. My only issue is I felt like he'd lost the old him along the way. Hopefully the statement is also sort of a realisation from him, as he is getting criticised a lot by the fan base, and he wouldn't put this out if he wasn't. And it's a realisation of, okay, yeah, maybe I had made mistakes. The Belfast thing's a mistake, and maybe my body language could have been different in these circumstances. And what can't happen is this can't drop and then we see the same thing for the rest of the season of, shoulders down, not clapping the fans, not doing the work. We need to see Rashford bounce back from this, and if he does, everyone will be behind him, and everyone will be behind him 100%, because no one can argue with what he put in that statement, who I really am, because what he's done previously from the club and what he's delivered across seasons and how he's got to where he is, everyone can kind of see that and they can respect it. But we need to see a bounce back, and I just think it's going to be nothing more than Rashford scoring the winner in the derby. I'd love nothing more. Can he do it? Has he got it? Let's see, and I hope he does. Rory C said, did he say anything of substance addressing his form on the pitch? He just basically said when he's been down in the past, it's when he's played his best football, and that's kind of how he feels now. He also said that, if you back me, thank you, but if you don't, it's even better because he's going to prove you wrong. Speaks about having faith in the team and needing to do better. Alex Marman says, needs to do what Maguire did, but perform on the pitch. Pizza says, Rashi is still a good player in him, just not here. And Billy Welch says, get a contract, play bad, blame podcasts and pundits, remind people he's human, play hard in the derby to get people on your side, survive, it's PR. See, Billy, I understand where you're coming from on that, but I'm like, what gain does Rashford have from that? He is a United fan. You can't question whether Rashford is a United fan. You've seen it. He had the opportunity to play for other clubs. He was given, he had the opportunity to sign for different clubs on life-changing money at the time, and he chose not to play for Man United. You've seen the pictures of him as a kid in Man United tops all throughout the time. He speaks about the story where Wayne Rooney had come to some, I think it was a tournament that he was at, and his friends or his brother was like, why, get a picture with him, get a picture. And Rashford was like, no, because I'm going to play with him one day. And he obviously did play with him one day. He is a United fan, so is he a United fan? Why? That's why I've questioned so often, I don't get why he doesn't put it in. And Rashford does put in a little bit of an excuse for this earlier on. And the excuse he put in was, when he first started playing for United, he went straight for James Milner and he nearly got sent off, and he went home and he said, I need to find a way to take the fan out of me when I'm playing on the pitch, or else I'm just going to get a red card every game. I'm not going to lie. I understand that, but I'm not going to lie. I would love to see Rashford, be on the brink of a red card from giving it a bit too much. I think a lot of fans are desperate to see that. I don't want Rashford to get red cards every game, of course I don't. But I think if fans want to see a bit of passion, a bit of fight, we'd love to see that. So I get I get where your point of view is from, Billy, and I can't argue it, because realistically that can be perceived to be an option, but I just don't get what is the game in it for Rashford. Why would he want to do that? Why would he want to do that? Like, he's got the biggest opportunity in the world to play for Manchester United. Why would that be the route he takes? Mikkel says Rashford uses chat AI to respond to critics. It definitely wasn't AI. Like, if you read it, you'd know that. But yeah, a lot of people talking about it from a different angle. But yes, anyway, that's really all I wanted to say on the Marcus Rashford thing. I am not going to sit here after he's been really open and honest about his childhood and his feelings and say it's just PR. It's just PR, because everyone has a right to a say, and you can interpret it how you want it to be interpreted. If it is PR, I've probably slightly fallen into the trap. I'm going to be honest. I'm a sucker for someone who is human and shows his humanity, but I still stand by all of the criticism I gave of Rashford in terms of work ethic, not putting enough work in on the pitch and showing it on the pitch. And at the end of the day, I stand by this point. If Rashford turns up to Manchester Derby, puts in a few tackles, like strong tackles, does the legwork, people will shut up on social media. People are always going to criticise he should be scoring more goals. People are always going to criticise whether you're a good player or not. Every player in that United side, you could get 5 different United fans in a room, and one of them would think they were world class, one of them would think they should be sold tomorrow. But what you've got to do is make it impossible for people to question your commitment, and the way you do that is by showing it on the pitch. I mean, Alan Shearer is a pundit. He didn't have any reason to go in on it yesterday. He even mentioned it. So what we need to see on the pitch needs to line up with that article. But look, everybody, thank you very much for watching the show. I really, really, really do appreciate everyone's comments, and I understand where everyone's coming from. I understand if you want to completely get behind Rashford and back him and you love him putting this out. I understand if you think it's PR and you're fed up because he's paid a lot of money and he just needs to perform on the pitch. And I understand if you're somewhere in the middle and, for example, like me, I've always loved Rashford. I've always kind of found his story really inspiring. What he did in terms of helping a lot of children in need was massively inspiring. But at the end of the day, I'm a Man United fan, and over the last year, I feel like I've lost that Rashford on the pitch. I feel like I lost the Rashford that had that fire. We need to see it back. So that's my take on it. But thank you, everyone, for having your say. And get your say in the comments. I'm sure Mark will have his say on his next show. But thank you very much, everyone, for watching. Remember, we have a live derby preview at 8 p.m. I've gone and got my favourite kit just for the derby preview. I'm representing. Does this story change things? Rashford last-minute winner, is that going to be on the cards now? But get in your comments, let me know what you think, and tune into the show at 8 p.m. for the live derby preview. I'll see you on the next one, everyone.